Yeah, that's how it always starts. But then later there's running and screaming.
The world's just changed so radically, and we're all running to catch up. How can we possibly have the slightest idea of what to expect? The best intentions. Some of the worst things imaginable have been done with the best intentions.
Dr. Malcolm, I had to share a few campfire stories with my uncle.
You can convince the Washington Post and the Skeptical Inquirer of whatever you want. But I was there, I know what happened, and so do you.
I don't think you're giving us our due credit. Our scientists have done things which nobody's ever done before.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could that they didn't stop to think if they should.
Hello, welcome to the September issue of Jurassic Minutes, where we discuss recent movie, toy and franchise news for the Jurassic series. I'm Brad.
I'm Dave.
And here we are for September. We have a guest, one of the long-term fans in the Jurassic franchise, telling us his experience. We'll get to that interview in a second. We got another long-lost Universal backlots video, which has emerged, starring the Working Village, which, David, we love. And we're going to have a bit of a deep dive into Camp Cretaceous Season 1 as well. But all that coming up next.
Mr. Hammond, I think we're back in business.
Apart from some set leaks, there hasn't been a lot of news for Dominion, so we've got a little bit of news later on. But before we get to that, we've got a special guest coming on the show to talk a little bit about his introduction to the franchise, running fan sites, and when the series ground to a halt back in 02-01 after JP3, and we got the sudden flood with new arrivals from Jurassic World. But Terry, Tyrannosaur TJ Online, was the creator of the former Jurassic Park Legacy and now heads Jurassicpedia, which we check in each week for some new articles and stuff relating to the films we're reviewing. But Terry, welcome.
Thanks. Hi.
This is a long time coming. We've been trying to get you on here for a few weeks, but finally, for the meantime, or for the most part, the technological gods are on our side.
It's not taking its revenge out on me for being IT from all the years before. So.
Well, we'll see. We've got some recording to do yet. We'll see what happens.
Yes.
But you've been involved in the franchise for a very long time. As I said before, you headed JP Legacy and now Jurassicpedia, but obviously your love for the franchise goes way beyond that and way further back than 2001, 2000 as well. So where did it all start? Did you see JP in theatres, or where did the Jurassic franchise and the love for it begin with you?
Well, for me, I was about 3 or 4 years old, and this was in like 1986, 87. And I was born in 84. My math might be off. It's been a long day. So we were out west vacationing, my dad, my mom, and I, and we stopped in this museum out there called Dinosaur Journey Museum in Fruitia, Colorado. And it was like basically from there it was kind of a whirlwind of a romance with dinosaurs and whatnot. So I had things like the Definitely Dinosaur toys and the Dino Riders toys. And
Nice.
I was getting dinosaur books every week, and I remember when I was about I think it was like 89 or so when Jurassic Park first came out, the novel. And we were in Walden Books, my mom and I pointed it out. I wanted the book, and my mom like, that's a big kid's book. So,
crushing dreams.
Yeah, and you know, it was here. Let me find the kiddie dinosaur books for you, which so it was basically from there. I kind of forgot about it, and then in 92, 93, I saw the poster for, I think a friend and I were seeing Aladdin in theaters or something like that, and I saw the Jurassic Park poster, and so I told my mom when I got home, and we started marking down the days and whatnot. And I think the big surprise came when we went to Toys R Us one time for 1 week. I ended up getting a young T-Rex, the brown one, and a Robert Muldoon figure. It came home, and I was really happy and really excited. And then we saw Jurassic Park in theaters. So I was about 8 or 9 around then anyway. So it was kind of just basically it culminated in that. And then I started really following the series more as I got older, I actually did eventually read the first and second novel, and it was when I was in 5th grade. I read the second novel first because it was a birthday present that it came out right there, and then I read the first novel. Mm-hmm. So I kind of went back and saw the differences between both the film and the movie, or the film and the novel, and I loved it. I really did. I really felt like it was like our version of Star Wars for the 90s, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that age 9, 10, that is that prime time. My son's sort of that age now with Fallen Kingdom and Jurassic World, and next year Dominion. So he's loving everything that Mattel's putting out, even if I don't on some things. But being that right age is definitely a good thing.
Yeah.
And then that you mentioned The Lost World, the film come out. Then we had the fun that was Jurassic Park 3. It come and gone, and then it started getting a bit quiet. We had news, rumours, the sales script, all that sort of stuff. But around that time, you're working on some websites, fan sites.
Yeah, I found the community in 2000. And I was like, after the whole Y2K thing and whatnot, I just was like, okay, whatever. So I kind of blurred that out a little bit. I didn't like it then. But I found a site called InGenNet, and it was kind of one of the first Jurassic Park fandom communities out there. And they had a forum, but they didn't have anything for like a fan fiction group or anything like that, and I was real big in fan fiction then. I mean, I was like, yeah, I can write. Look at this. My writing was horrible. I had no concept of grammar or anything. I was your typical 15-year-old there with that, just highly enthusiastic but ready to do everything. And
most people's writing does start out that way. I remember some of my first writing I look back at with cringe.
Yeah.
Some of your ideas lose their charm, too.
My writing was that bad, I was just blatantly copying paragraphs out of the novels. just to make up for gaps. Yeah.
I've tried to emulate Crichton's style a little bit, and even in my writing back then, just so that I work towards it, basically. So, I mean, I do a little writing now off to the side for my own personal projects, but I haven't really invested into anything in a long time, especially Jurassic Park fan fiction-wise, even though I kind of want to play with some of the new stuff now since we've gotten, like, you know, the Masrani Global site and everything else with Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom and Dinosaur Protection Group and things like that. So.
Yeah, no, it's funny you mentioned InGenNet. David, we were talking a couple of weeks ago when we realised that Lost World was no longer online. Or so we thought. Something did survive there. But just fan sites back then, I remember InGenNet, a couple others. I was going through my hard drives the other day and actually found one fan site that had... it must have been a couple of weeks or a month or so before the release of Jurassic Park 3, because there was articles and interviews with Kathleen Kennedy and Joe Johnson with how it was working on the film and their excitement for the fans and the world seeing Jurassic Park 3. And just a time capsule of having a page without ads all over it, and just the links to Dan's JP3 page and InGenNet and some of the other fan pages as well. But as you said, that was all mainly forums, members and fans talking to each other. They seem to lack the encyclopedia side of things.
Well, what ended up happening was that at InGenNet with the fanfiction forum, we started asking a lot of questions. Because a group of writers started actually kind of like, oh, yeah, I really like this idea, but what was on Nublar? What was on Sorna? Dodgson says there's 15 species, but it's different than what it was in the novels. There's a lot of differences between the novels and the films. So that was kind of where the encyclopedia started, because I basically sat down and I watched the films on repeat, ruining my personal enjoyment of them at times, so that I could make this huge list of everything I saw in there, so that I could just get to the bottom of everything and try to figure things out. And then I started going over the making of books, and it was like it became a full-time job. And being 15 at the time, and then a forum moderator at the time, and on the board, on the InGenNet board, and doing the encyclopedia, I actually felt like I was doing something good. And I think that was the most important thing of it, was that I was making a difference and whatnot with it. And I felt then, like I do now with the encyclopedia, I wanted to create kind of like an academic environment for it, for us to go over things and talk about things. And we have things like our research protocol and peer review elements where we fact check just to make sure that we're not, huffing, drinking the Kool-Aid or huffing the glue too heavily,
or doing what would become Jurassic Wiki, just random and sometimes not true stuff.
Right, the headcanoning thing. I mean, it was kind of. We started with that a little bit. And then we eventually realized that was really bad, and there was a lot of people in the group that disagreed, of course, and then separated off and just stopped, altogether. And it was just me. I cleaned house a little bit with it, and we sat down. And it was like every so often we would have like this invasion of headcanons again, where we'd have to reevaluate everything and go back to the drawing board and go, okay, wait. Where did you get that idea from, and why? I think one of the things that's really famous in the fandom now, and that's been perpetually uttered, and David hates this, is the JP3 Rex being the infant from Lost World. And
you're right, I do hate it.
Yeah.
And all that conversation started off was, hey, there's a remote possibility that actually might be the infant from Lost World. Huh, isn't that interesting? Well, we could put it as a factoid of the article or whatever. And then when we realized that it was like, oh, people are taking this as gospel, that's bad. So we took it out. Because it's like, no, we don't know. That is the answer. We do not know. This is some male T-Rex that just wandered in and picked a fight with the Spinosaurus.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been miscommunication and missteps with it that I reluctantly look back at and go, but we learned something from it. And we correct, and now I think we make a more concentrated effort in trying to basically identify fact over headcanon.
Yep.
And whatnot, and try to definitely separate ourselves from the headcanon as much as possible. So.
So it was all your fault.
Yeah. That sounds like my ex right there with everything. If the sun rose 3 seconds a little bit later, she was angry with me for it. So everything is my fault.
Sounds about right.
That's why I'm not married.
Yeah. And there's that. David, we've talked to about the raptors on the SS Venture and other sort of stuff like that, which I remember reading that in some fanfic. I don't know if it was in InGenNet or somewhere back in the day, that someone wrote that in there, and of course now everyone thinks there was raptors on the boat, or that
one's one I've argued with so many people about, and they're like, but why do you have a problem with that? I'm like, because it's so wrong. We have a right answer here. It's the T-Rex. It's always been the T-Rex. There's no raptors. There's never been raptors. Raptors never even been on the table. Yeah. And it's like, but it's just fun.
Here's the kicker with that. It's even stated in the film that they only brought the T-Rex back on the boat.
Yes, it says there's several facts in the film that say there's no raptors.
And yeah, I mean, you have the concept art, you have the script, you have
two scripts, the novelization.
It is a plethora of things that say nothing about raptors on the boat. And here's the kicker with that. If you actually think it was velociraptors on the boat and they just magically jumped off while the boat's at full speed ramming into a dock, first, that's a magical belief. I mean, raptors are smart, don't get me wrong, but I don't think they're that smart. And then we have another component with that where it would be a tease for the next film, don't you think?
Yeah.
Kind of like Godzilla '98 showing the baby Godzilla at the end of everything. I mean, come on. It's a sequel. It's a potential sequel idea. Why would they not show it? So.
Yeah, I'd like to think they fashioned some paragliders or parasails and sailed off the boat before it hit.
Maybe they discovered teleportation technology. They stole it from the Asgard and Stargate or something. I don't.
Nice. I still love the one of Nick was on there and just murdered everyone. But again, fanfic headcanon, and you do bring up a good point about the headcanonness of everything. Before I'm sort of have an argument with one person online with the difference between the novel and the film for Jurassic Park mainly, and he's sort of headstrong that if you don't see it or it's not mentioned in Jurassic Park the film, then the novel completely explains it and back and forth. And I think just letting people know that, okay, you're saying one thing, it's not proven fact or anything, you can say it, but make sure it's marked speculation or what have you, not fact. But yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That was kind of the. I kind of ran into something with when we were discussing the differences between the Brachiosaurus in Jurassic Park 3 and Jurassic Park, and a part of us were on the idea of, because of with the Velociraptors, it's pretty obvious that they're a different version altogether, and the evidence for version numbers is that it's basically there. It's just a hidden detail. We don't really see it. But if you listen to the way the characters talk about the dinosaurs being software, that they're building, of course, that's where the evidence is. But the thing with the Brachiosaurus is that we were all dead set on it actually being sexually dimorphic. So we thought they were all males in Jurassic Park 3, where now we kind of look back at that, at least I do, and I go, maybe they were a different version number 2. So it's not. I've gotten accustomed to a lot of the answers being I don't know or we don't know enough being the acceptable answer, because to say otherwise is kind of cheating. It's getting somebody's hopes up in order for it to be proven false. In the end, possibly. I approach it like a science, more or less. So
true, and part of that science is also again being that there's not always a catch-all answer to these kind of things. Like, take the Brachiosaurus for instance. At one point, the sexual dimorphism was the catch-all answer. Oh, this is a different version. Sexual dimorphism, and then it became the version numbers once we started looking back into the movies, discovering the little kind of details that they don't explicitly mention in the movies, but you can see are still there, holdovers from the book or in previous scripts and stuff like that Crichton wrote. And so it kind of became version numbers. And nowadays it's like it's the nothing in Jurassic World is natural. That's kind of a catch-all answer that the fans take and run with. And now you got something even slightly different from the previous. And it's obviously, that's woos. Not everything in Jurassic World is natural. And it's just, there's no such thing as a catch-all answer. And there's many different layers, many different kind of intents and everything like that goes into the creation of these movies. And I think that can't be ignored in favor of a catch-all answer.
Well, and I think the other thing too is that a lot of people like a catch-all answer there because it answers everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, true.
Even if it doesn't. I mean, it's less complicated. It's basically straightforward. Yes, this is a catch-all. Yep. I'll believe that. Yep. And they run with it, which is a problem because nobody wants to think critically about things and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I mean, fiction is one of those things where it's an art, but I mean, it's something where you can actually think critically about, or you should be thinking critically about because there's more to the story.
Exactly.
After IngenNet went down and everything, I ended up with working with JP Database for a while. And I was basically doing the same thing I did at IngenNet before ending up at odds with the administration because of the way they handled the new membership. Everybody was disenchanted when Jurassic Park 3 came out, so kind of an error in the community started to basically take hold, is that if anybody came in with any kind of enthusiasm or whatever, they would be hazed or made fun of or tore down in order to get the newbie cage or whatever. And this was kind of the catch-all attitude from 2001 on to about, I'd say maybe even 2007, 2008.
I'd nearly extend that to now. I still see in Facebook groups people either seeing JP3 for the first time or maybe that was their Jurassic Park. They were that 9 or 10 years old at that time, and that's the first one they've seen in theatres, and coming online, coming into groups and discussing it, and just having those people that don't like it, and instead of just not commenting. Well, we've all seen what happens.
Yeah, it's kind of explosive. But I mean, the problem was that the administration staff there, they didn't want to do what was needed. And I wanted to ban the people that were causing the problems, but one of the administrators was, but they're veterans. I don't care if they're veterans. I don't care if they've been around since the ass crack of dawn today, or the day, or even the Permian. I don't care. They're being jerks. They need to be held accountable. They need to be handed a warning and told, sawed off if they're going to continue that.
Yep.
So it was basically, it was a lot of back and forth. And then I eventually quit. I ended up having no site for a while. I took the encyclopedia with me. I just was basically like, you know what, I'm just done. This is the whole thing. My ex girlfriend, well, she became my ex-girlfriend. She was my girlfriend at the time. She's like, well, why don't you know enough? She's like, why don't you start your own site?
Yeah.
So that's where JPL came to be. It started off as Jurassic Park Movie Universe. I don't know. I wasn't really feeling the name. It wasn't really a good one. So it was on GeoCities for a while, and it was very, very, very basic, as I learned from a site like Page Resource or W3 Schools on how to program, for websites and whatnot. And I had done a lot of IT stuff while going through high school anyways, so it kind of helped. And then I actually went to school. I went to ITT for web design, and that was when I started to get a little bit better with it, and that's why JPL started to just magically get this facelift to it after a while. But it was old school web programming. Like, I will go to Notepad and I will code, and it will look great. And then you see the disjointed tables, and then you're like, ah! So it was a nice way for me to surrender from things around me in my life that I was kind of avoiding dealing with. Everything from the age of 15 on was just not really pleasant. My parents ended up divorcing because my mother had a very she had a drug problem. And I came online to kind of escape it because the way my life was going at the time was that it wasn't good. And I needed something to commit to, something just basically put myself in and forget about everything for a while. And so that was kind of where I started, why I started with IngenNet back in the day and whatnot. That was why I was writing in the first place, and then the encyclopedia became the mission and everything else. So
yeah, just bury your head in the online work and that.
Yeah, and I mean there was some really bad stuff going on too. I mean, it was my teenage years were not pleasant, and that was also when I started experiencing symptoms of my mental illness that I got diagnosed with too. So, and I thought I could foolishly handle it, and I did for a while, except it wasn't really good.
Building, yeah. Well, now at this point, you've started your own site with Legacy after attaching this encyclopedia anyway to other sites. But you mentioned before about other admins not wanting to kick out the trolls and that sort of thing. You got your own site with Legacy. What sort of environment did you want to set up or cultivate with the site when you were building it?
I really wanted it to be a welcome and inclusive environment. Everybody felt welcome. Everybody respected each other. I figured I noticed a lot of the problem is that nobody was courteous, or nobody practiced civility, I should say. And I mean, it was like even in discussions and things like that, they always get heated, and then the insults start flying and everything like that. I'm guilty of that myself a little bit. So, what are you, stupid? Yes, I've not had a few. I've not had many proud moments. So, but the problem was that I just wanted. The main thing I wanted to convey was that everybody was welcome. Everybody was basically entitled to dignity. And, the fighting kept going, though. And I found myself at odds with everybody being welcome with, I have to ban this person now. And because this person's being rude to this other individual, or and the problem with banishment is that people view it quite like capital punishment, and it's basically you don't give them the death penalty for jaywalking, for instance, which I understand. But in this case, you have somebody that's basically using various slurs and various insults that are, it's like, I can't believe, it's like, why would you even say that?
Yeah. So
it came obvious to me that I had to be kind of the authoritarian, and I didn't really like that very much. And it kind of ran in conflict to basically the environment that I wanted. So...
Yeah, and that's the fine line you have to walk as an administrator. I remember, even starting groups or what have you like that, they always start as your living room, your land room, just for people to come and discuss whatever topics the page is about. But then, of course, disagreements, all that sort of stuff starts, and you go from being one of the guys or whatever else in the group to having to start throwing that banhammer around, and that's when... Mm-hmm. Just the vitriol and the anger that some people have towards unfavourable things in the franchise, they just turn it straight onto you, and it's pretty hard and pretty not a good thing to have to deal with anyway. If that's from personal opinion here, or personal experience.
And the other thing is that for me, I mean, I remember, and we've talked on this subject previously about how I first found Jurassic Park Legacy, I think, in 2005 or 6 or so, when it had just gotten its own screen name. And I remember the encyclopedia being actually part of the main page. I didn't even know about the forum itself.
And it was a list.
What's that?
It was a list.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes, it was. And I just remember I was 12 and thinking that a forum was a credits page, so I never even bothered to look at it. But
You missed a lot of explosive, sort of volatile sort of fights then. Let's put it that way.
Probably for the best.
It was. You probably wouldn't like, what did I walk in on and why? Trust me, there were times I wanted to check out as well at that point.
I remember I joined in 2011, and I remember it was there were rules, there were boundaries, and there were other times where it was just, I mean, I had a lot of fun. It was a great site. I loved it. And I remember that I became a moderator, we did have to draw that line between being the guy that wants to be everybody's friend, and there are times where you have to say, okay, guys, here's the line, don't cross. And of course, you always got that one or two people who got across the line to see what happens. And as you said, we had a. I thought it was a very just system. It was the infraction based, points based. If you got so many infractions, that led to a temporary ban. But people always viewed banishment, like you said, as a permanent kind of situation, and they never really used what we had on the forum was called an apology system.
No one ever used it. I think maybe only a few people actually used the apology system. Because I think,
used it.
Yeah,
remember?
You used it. I know you, but I know there were a couple others that it was like I told them about it.
Mm-hmm.
But see, the reason the rules were as stringent as they were was we had a lot of trouble with trolls in the beginning that would actually try to reference the rules as a way to find a loophole so they could escape the ban. So the problem was that both the lead administrator, my co-web at the time, and we had to find a way to word the rules in such a way that was vague enough but also covered everything. So that was why they were so stringent as they were, was we were trying to basically cut off the people that were trying to find a loophole. But
gotta love that.
Yeah.
You can still see people doing that, like our politicians today still do that. Well, it's not against the rules. I'm like, no, but it's just common decency. Like,
right. You know, and that was the line with the rules that we had, was that we had to actually find a way to actually enforce common decency, and that's just it's something that you can't really enforce because it's something that has to be taught. You know, and it's like, where do we draw the line with that? Because we should have to teach them how to treat each other amicably. This should be common. Hey, you know, if you say something that's kind of mean, you know, don't be surprised if, you know, that person's very uncourteous with you. You know, I mean, but I think the biggest issue is that because of everything that was going on with the aggressive and unfriendly attitudes and whatnot, is that it basically the site had developed a negative point of view, being too strict. And so what they would do was that when the troll would get banned or whatever, they would send their friends to come in and fight their battles for them and whatnot. And of course we'd ban the troll, you know, just because it's like, oh, come on, seriously, you know, how many of you people are going to climb out of the clown car this time? Come on. So,
yeah,
but I started to lose myself because any optimism for the fandom basically was ripped from me because I was constantly fighting the trolls, and I mean it was never ending. And then I had my own personal demons in my own life that I was dealing with that wasn't really fun. So,
yeah.
You know. But it would just eventually it ended up being this unyielding and unending torment for me, where I wasn't enjoying myself anymore, and I felt obligated to leave the site going because I know there were a lot of people then that, you know, referenced it and used it and believed in the mission still, and you know, they were enthusiastic. I know, David, you were enthusiastic still. But, I mean, it was that's what kept me going for a while. That's what saved me from just basically just being done. And there were a couple times that I had actually taken breaks and things like that. I know some stuff that was basically forced on me that I ended up for a brief time in 2008 to 2010, and that was when I lived in Nevada and all those terrible things happened to me after my mom died. And then I tried again after that. I think it was like maybe 2012, 2013 or so. That was right when I got my diagnosis of being schizoaffective. And that was around the time that I actually tried to back away and everything. And then that was when we also found out about that non-cancerous tumor in my head too, that had to be operated on. So there was a lot of time there that, I started having all that. I had all that vitriol for me build up because it was the trolls kind of killed it for me. But I mean, at the same time, I also had my own struggles too, and I don't think a lot of people realized the struggles that I was going with offline at the time that I was fighting back.
Yeah,
So.
that's it. And unless you're showing your whole personal life online at the same time, it is a separate world, personal life and the online persona or online life, and all that sort of stuff starts to build up. And you've alluded to some things before. Some of the things that started creeping in around this time as well. But it was around when did Legacy shut down? Around 2012, 13?
It was about a year after Jurassic World came out.
A lot newer.
Yeah.
A lot sooner.
I looked at it, and it was after my surgery. So, and the surgery, I was really touch and go. My dad was really, really worried. He didn't leave my side at times, aside for work, because he had to. But otherwise, it was like he was in the hospital room after work. And, with it affecting my mental health and everything as well, too, he's like, you need to separate yourself. And I'm like, but the encyclopedia, and then there's so many people dependent on it. And then he just looked at me and went, you need to separate yourself. And I'll never forget that conversation. And then I was talking to my therapist about it. He's like, well, I was going to say something, but you were going to listen to me. I'm like, well, I'm paying to listen to you. Of course I need to listen to you. So he's like, you need to shut it down. You need to find some way to just cut it off, step away from it gradually and whatnot. So that was kind of the reason why JPL ended up shutting down, was because it was actually in part due to my mental health and my physical health at the time as well. And, I admit recovering from that surgery has not been a cakewalk. I still have problems that, I still deal with as a result till my body is completely healed. So, but it's really hard to heal when you're ready to go to war every 6 seconds because somebody's being a jerk.
Yeah. And I'll raise my little white flag here. I remember back then, I think it was posted on Jurassic Park, the group at the time, that Legacy was closing down, and I remember being pretty irate about it, and I shouldn't have been. Just the fact that it was getting closed down, and I think I spent the next week screen capping and saving every page that I wanted to, or that I could on Legacy, just to keep a piece of it for myself. But I do remember first ranting pretty hard about it until realising that it probably wasn't the best thing. So I do apologise for that. Again, not knowing what was going on in the background, but I'm sure I wasn't the only one, and it probably wouldn't have helped at the time with what you're going through, and then deciding to step away from it and having idiot fans going at you for taking the resource away or closing it down.
I understand why people were upset, because it had become a large part of their lives, like it was a large part of mine. I was upset too. I mean, I didn't show it, but yeah, I wasn't doing good inside. Yeah. I started getting really erratic a little bit when I went to shut it down as well too, which did not help.
Yeah, and for that 14-year gap too, there wasn't Dan's JP Free page come and went. I'm sure some other sites come and went too, as news for Jurassic Park 4 sort of dwindled, and then Spielberg would get it there every now and then and say, oh, we're working on a script, or we're doing this or doing that. But from memory, and I haven't fact-checked, so I'm probably not correct, but Legacy probably was the Jurassic place to be for a lot of that time.
Yes, it was. From about 2003 to about 2016 when I shut it down, yeah.
Yep.
And, I mean, like I said, I mean, I micromanaged a lot, too. So that was definitely part of the problem as well. because I had this perfectionist edge with me, where I wanted to oversee everything and make sure everything was all right, everybody was accountable, and everything was getting done, and we were working towards something, we were working towards the goal, and then it was like, oh, well, the membership's acting up. Okay, well, step in on that too, and micromanage that mess as well.
And I would say that, honestly, that's almost like something that can be, I mean, you could almost call it the curse of JP Legacy, just because even I started getting that way at one point, where I was kind of somewhat co-heading the encyclopedia, and I was getting really into the in-house role-playing game we had, Live the Legend, and I was just like demanding perfection, and I was demanding absolute canon follow, and it just became this thing where everybody became running to you and like, David's out of control, he's trying to control everything.
And I remember the times we were in the IRC chat, and you'd be like, okay, I'm going to go to bed. And then 4 hours later, I'm still up because I wasn't on my meds at that time. And you're browsing the forum. I'm like,
that was the other.
He's doing what I do.
Thing. I have insomnia problems, so I'm always up till 4 a.m. browsing something. The thing is though, this just became an unhealthy thing with me. There was a point where I was skipping classes because I thought some shit show was going to go down on the forum or something, and it was just unhealthy, and ended up getting banned. And I think that was better for me to just be forcibly removed from the forum for a couple months, just to kind of put myself back together.
Intervention.
Yeah. I mean, I regretted having that go through for you, because I know it was end of the world, but it was like, how do you deprive the addict what they're addicted to? You have to starve them from it a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
It's also the issue too with just how radically some groups or forums and that grow. You start something out, you have a focus, you have a goal, and all that sort of thing. But as stuff gets bigger, and you need to bring, or you choose to bring other people in to help, yes, you could lay down some ground rules to say this is how things are going to roll and all that sort of stuff. But people are going to act their own way. Some are going to dig in harder than others, and before you realise it, you've lost your baby. You've lost control.
Well, I mean, the other issue in this is too, and I don't mention it as much as I used to, is the fandom's politics. Mm-hmm. And there's surprisingly a lot. You've got your groups, you've got your cliques, and you've got your exclusive clubs and things like that. I've noticed there's still some people out there that still do some things that I kind of just look at and go, that's not cool. But I kind of, with Pedia, the plan was that basically I miss doing the encyclopedia. I miss having something that I can wake up, look at, work on a little bit if I feel up to it, and then forget about it for the rest of the day, if I need to. And thankfully, barring a few issues that we've had, which weren't really that bad because we handled them like, a snap of a finger, I feel we have a well-oiled cog. Could be a little bit more active at times, but whatever. I feel less like Crowley from Supernatural when it came to hell. He hates that place. Yes, he does. I felt, as much as I love JPL, I hated it too. Because there was always something, there was always a problem, there was always an embarrassment to be had. I remember showing prospective employers, and they would see that stuff. And I would have to basically, I wouldn't get hired as a result. And it was very disconcerting because I was trying to remake my life and make it better. build up for it. And then, I think what the big thing was that, in 2012, 2013, when I was trying to go back to school, I was trying to go back to school for paleontology, which has been my overall end game, basically. And that was also when I had my full-on psychotic break and ended up in the hospital for a suicide attempt. And that was when I was also diagnosed with schizoaffective depression, PTSD, and anxiety. And it was hard to understand because I always knew I had problems, I guess. But now I had proof that I had problems. And I had even more proof that I needed medication for that problem because doing it myself was not helping. I mean, a lot of my anger was erratic at times. And I do recall looking back and going, yeah, I did some things that I do regret and said things that I did regret and had fights with people that I should have had fights with. Mm-hmm. And I do feel bad about all that. I think that was also what led my mom down her path of drug use, though, was she had, because my dad's mentally healthy, mostly. But in reality, he is. He's mentally healthy. He's in a healthier place. He doesn't have half the crap that I have. He doesn't have depression. He tells me he's like, don't think about it. So I'm like, I can get nuts. So, it's one of those things, though. But my mom, she had the anger. She had the hallucinations. She saw the things that I used to see and whatnot. Hell, we used to have group hallucinations at some point because we'd fool each other into it. And that was the problem, was that we were both sick and we didn't realize it. And then when she ended up completing suicide, I was at odds with what to do with myself. It was like the whole world basically ended then. And even though we weren't seeing eye to eye anyway. And I started to suspect even then, but I kind of denied it, and I just kept going with it because I thought I could actually fix it myself, because I didn't trust anybody, and there was that element as well, too. So when I got my diagnosis and I got on my meds and I started seeing the difference and whatnot in things, and that was also when I started to realize that JPL was while it was a coping mechanism, it was also unhealthy for me. It was an unhealthy coping mechanism at that time for me. So, but I know it meant a lot to everybody, and I hope Jurassicpedia carries on that spark, I guess, that JPL had, at least with the information resource aspect of it.
Well, what do you do differently with Pedia now that you didn't do with Legacy's Encyclopedia?
Well, I don't micromanage as much. Okay, maybe not as much, but still a little bit. The big thing is that I decided against a forum. And the reason being is that I always had so much trouble with our forum, with JPL's forum in the past, where I was basically at odds with it, where I wanted to get rid of it. And part of the problem with JPL was that I couldn't probably do away with the forum on it and just focus on the encyclopedia without somebody going, the site sucks now, or whatever. And constantly going back to the original benchmark and looking at the new thing and go, well, the new thing's worse, or whatever. I felt like what I needed was that we had a clean slate, so I think that's helped immensely as well, is that Pedia has a clean slate. And I've gradually softened. I feel like maybe we are missing dialogue for basically working on the encyclopedia itself with recruiting people, and that was why I eventually, talked to you, David, about forming the Facebook groups. Like, we have our public discussion group, and then we have the contributor group where we can all kind of talk to each other. And then we have our Facebook chat that we always have up just in order to pop new information, headline, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But I feel the groups are healthier because we gatekeep a little bit just to make sure that we're bringing in people that aren't going to basically ruin it.
Well, the other thing is that, I mean, like with the chat as well, I do feel like, we do get off topic a lot, but we at the same time do kind of keep it on the topic of Jurassic Park.
Unless I'm talking about Transformers. Unless I'm talking about Transformers, or you're talking about ponies.
But at the same time, I do feel like the chat and less so the contributors group, but I wish it was more active, but the chat does encourage a lot of communal discussion between the main contributors to the encyclopedia, and I think that it helps us get a good consensus of what everybody thinks about it, about the topics that we bring up. Like, just recently, we were talking about the moon phase difference in the Camp Cretaceous cartoon versus what we see in the final film, and we all come to a consensus. Well, the film should take precedence over the cartoon,
right?
Obviously,
it's also artistic as well, because I mean, exactly. The example that I cited was Titanic. The star constellation patterns and the moon phase at the time in that movie doesn't match up with what was actually going on. And I feel deGrasse Tyson pointed it out to James Cameron. James Cameron's like, "Give me a break. I thought it looked cool, So I mean, we have to kind of draw a line with that whenever we're doing the encyclopedia with things like that, and go, what's for artistic interpretation and what is for the actual fictional, canonical sort of thingamajig.
Exactly.
I mean, let's take a break and look at that. So yeah, I mean, I'm really happy with the way the public groups turned out, because I seem to think that we've got a really good bunch of members that, that they answer the entrance questions, they agree to the rules. I think they're really, engaged, because we have these gatekeeping things up front in order to kind of basically encourage people to come in, and then some of our policies as well too. Because I like a pro science, pro intellectual group in that way, because there's so many groups now that are basically against that or don't have a guideline for, that.
And I brought it up to you, I think, the other night, how it's interesting that because we kind of have this thing where we only let people in if they answer all the questions, we kind of cultivate this kind of attitude where, I mean, I don't want to say it in a negative way, but I think it's positive, because we cultivate this attitude where people are more inclined to actually have a thoughtful discussion.
Exactly.
And I think that that's created an environment where we don't have any fights. I don't think I've broken up I've broken up maybe one fight since we started this group, and it's been up for probably almost a year, at least a year or two, probably 2 years at this point.
Yeah, and this is how a site should run.
Exactly. Yeah.
Remember JPL? Total dumpster fire. This, not so much.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you're right.
It's important that we have these things. And I mean, there's a right way to do elitism and whatnot, and there's a wrong way to do it. But I mean, it's like everybody is, yes. Bottom line, everybody is welcome. Just follow the policies and don't be an ass. So.
Yeah, just have that, as we were talking earlier about headcanons and trying to find answers for things in the films, having healthy discussion and sort of discussing your points of view, whether it fits in the films, whether it doesn't, all that sort of stuff's fantastic to see in the group and be a part of, as opposed to cat memes or some of the other weird and wacky stuff that people think it's appropriate to post into a Jurassic group. But,
Yeah, that no.
I don't miss moderating Jurassic Park the group precisely for that reason.
There's just more and more people think it's just acceptable to share their posts to every group that they're part of, no matter what the subject of the group is.
I remember seeing a lot of the posts coming in on that. I just would sit there and shake my head. I would be like, really? You're gonna do that?
we had someone try and share their wedding video the other day. Not Jurassic at all. Nothing. Not even the Jurassic theme walking down the aisle. Just 100% nothing Jurassic themed, and they're posting the video in the group.
What? No Jurassic Park theme when they're walking down the aisle? No. I mean, I know that's going to be my wife isn't going to get a say in that. She's going to be, we're doing the Jurassic Park theme walking down the aisle.
I mean, some of the memes aren't bad, but I mean, when it's nonsensical slogans attached to idiot pictures of domestic animals, you kind of get to a point where it's like, how does this deal with the dinosaur? And how does this related to Jurassic Park at all?
Yeah. And I'll mention it here. Stop posting the video of the giraffe chasing the Jeep. I'm over it.
Yes.
Yes. And the other tired meme of, can it get any worse? Jurassic can? Come on.
Oh my god, that one.
You post that again? I'm banning you. You should understand that has been around with "you had one job, Phil."
Yeah, yep, that one. Yep, the Pope.
Both of
the
those
Pope and the
do
Frill.
not post. Watch, I'll probably be trolled now with everybody sending it in. But, you know, just to test the fences and see what happens. Well, let's say it's not.
Oh, Roland, I'd love to know where we are.
Going forward, I mean, what is the something you want to achieve with Pedia?
Finish the encyclopedia. I mean, it'll never be finished, but I mean, at least get it along to the point where we were with JPL, to a point where there was a section for everything, and we're working on updating the sections versus creating new ones as much. I mean, we've got Camp Cretaceous, which Matt has done remarkable work with getting the entries out.
He's been pumping them out a lot.
He's been doing fantastic. I'm really happy with his work this time, and I know Christian's working on upgrading the entries to make it a little bit more inclusive. We're going to be working on, I know with the timeline, we're going to be working on entering in more sources for that, for people that are questioning where are we getting this from, and it's usually the reason why is because it's a global thing, so we use the Monsterani global site, Dinosaur Protection Group, things like that. And since it's referenced throughout the site, it's on the works cited page, but it's not actually within the article. So hopefully we're getting that. We're going to relook at that kilobetor theory. David.
Yeah. That is something that I think is definitely going to be up for further discussion. I know there's an article written in a blog that you sent me that it was basically, they even name dropped me as one of the originators of this and spreaders of the idea.
Yep.
On Jurassic Park Legacy, and it was just, I mean, it does have things going for it, but it also has a lot of cons, and I think it's just laying down those pros and cons visually that I think we're going to have to just take a step toward and really reassess, okay, how do we classify it? What do we say? How much of it do we just admit we don't know? You know, I mean, all that, you know?
And I'm thinking, well, you saw my first option in the contributor forum for it. That's kind of where I sit with it. That's kind of your JP3 Rex being the baby from Lost World mistake.
Yes, I think it is.
Welcome to the club. I'm just teasing you. But no, I can see why people would have issue with that and why they've been running with it as much as they have. So it's definitely something to talk about and discuss and try to get out there, because on one hand you have Crichton wanting a Deinonychus-sized Velociraptor, which, and then on the other hand it's like, oh wow, we happened to find one within the area too, but it wasn't dated 1999, so or 2000 or whatever. So
yeah,
it's hard to keep track.
What else goes into is the Jurassic Park Raptors Utah Raptor or a Dakota Raptor, or do we stick with it being Deinonychus because that's what we have evidence for with concept art and in-film evidence and all the other evidence that is intended to be Deinonychus? Or do we go with what Jurassic World's apparently doing, where it's, again, a Deinonychus-sized Velociraptor? Or do we... I mean, it's just...
these raptors are the new maps. That is my problem with the Jurassic World stuff, is that it kind of basically glanced over that without actually going, oh, yeah, we did that. Oops. It's more or less
these raptors are the new maps.
Yeah.
Terry knows what I'm talking about.
Yes. The maps are the maps were one of the big contention points on JPL back when we created them, because the Nublar one I created in MS Paint, or recreated in MS Paint. And remember how I said that I have a diagnosis? Well, yeah, that's pretty evident, because let me tell you, working pixel by pixel and yeah, that was a good way to spend my summer. And that was also probably why the girlfriend left me.
Oh, no. Are you coming to bed, honey? One more pixel, dear, and then I'll be done.
100 pixels later. Why aren't you in bed? Oh, I was supposed to be in bed.
Is there a light outside? What's the sun coming up for?
Oh, wait, it's 5 a.m.? Holy crap!
Hey, you guys are laughing. That was literally me doing my worker village map. just going frame by frame through the movie and recreating it in Microsoft Paint.
Yeah, that was... Yeah, you did the exact thing I did. Except on a smaller scale. It wasn't... Well, no, I mean, it could be... Yeah, it was basically the same thing. I started to make you feel better, but I decided not to. Sorry.
For me, it was the operations building. Just drawing the operations building in Paint, looking straight on. Several different versions. Maybe not so much late at night.
I do not envy you at all then on that one. My favorite one was when somebody gave me a visitor center map, and I sat down and looked at it, and it took me about 5 minutes to look at it and go, "You did this wrong." What do you mean? I'm like, you trust me, you did this wrong. Let me show you. How many times have you seen the movie? Kind of question comes up.
It's in the film.
It's somewhere over 1 billion. I'm not sure. I lost count after my first 5.
That's fantastic. We appreciate all the hard work that you and the crew is doing behind the scenes for Jurassicpedia, and love to personally thank you for sticking with the fandom after the legacy and sort of giving us Legacy 2.0 in Pedia and everything it holds for the future.
I really hope it's a worthy successor, and honestly, working on just basically writing entries about the media and whatnot has been very therapeutic for me as well too, because it allows me to just basically focus on the stuff, on everything, the franchise as it is, and look at the canons and the continuities that exist, and actually enjoy them instead of fighting with people perpetually. into infinity and beyond.
I will say that as one of your best friends, I have definitely noticed that since the shutdown of Jurassic Park Legacy and having that break, you have become mentally in a much better place, and I think that it's been very helpful for you to get right back on the get back on the right track. You know.
You can say I'm less of an a-hole now than I was before.
Your words, but not mine.
Oh, I have my moments still, though. You know that.
You're much more you're much more easier to convince when you got a bad idea.
Yeah. And I've noticed that I have bad ideas a lot less frequently sometimes.
That too, yes.
Depending. Because I mean, there was some really bad ideas that I had with managing the forum too. I kind of regret that.
I have a theory that there are two kinds of boys. There are those that want to be astronomers and those that want to be astronauts. The astronomer, the paleontologist, gets to study these amazing things from a place of complete safety.
But then you never get to go into space.
Exactly. It's the difference between imagining and seeing, be able to touch them.
Let's take a moment and have a look at some retail therapy to help with with all that. Terry, we didn't ask during the interview, but what are you collecting? Do you collect any of the figures, whether it's the Kenner stuff of old, the Mattel stuff now, statues, props?
It's well, for Hasbro stuff, I pretty much have everything. I'm thinking I'm missing maybe a few pieces of certain things, but I mean mostly everything it's like Jurassic Park, Lost World, Jurassic Park 3, Chaos Effect, JP Dinosaurs, all variations of those and whatnot. Hasbro stuff is basically done. So the problem was that when Jurassic World came out, the toys were less than stellar. So, frickin' Hasbro. you know, actually, that American Dad, damn you, Hasbro. Yeah, that was what I was doing. So, when Mattel got the license, I was basically like, okay, look, I'll probably get a few of them just to see how it is, and go from there. Right. Well, if I were to turn the camera on or we were to take a picture, you would see that the Mattel figures have quite multiplied.
God, they're flourishing.
Yeah, they're flourishing. Yes. So I'm hardcore back into it again, I guess I should say. I'm back with the Mattel toys. I'm getting them. I have Hammond figure. I have my Nedry figure from the San Diego Comic-Con, which I kind of enjoy a little too much. and I mean, it's like Amber Collection and yeah. So this week, because I like to do my toy hunts, I was out and I found a couple of Tac Pack figures finally. Target was nice enough to refresh their stock, and it's not the same old. So I got the Camp Cretaceous Dimorphodon and the Primal Attack Purple Raptor, which kind of like. Mm-hmm. I know it's not canon, but whatever. And then there are other things that I collect, like Transformers.
Yep.
I broke down and finally got War for Cybertron and Siege Shockwave, which I'm actually really happy with. I collect mostly Decepticons because, you know, I kind of am one.
You are evil.
I like Megatron more than I should.
You're almost as bad with Megatron as I am with Rainbow Dash. Yes. We call this a squish because that is my attraction to Megatron. I would basically. I tout the all hail Megatron flag quite often. Mm-hmm. So I also broke down and I got a eBay. I noticed that they have the knockoffs of the MP36 Megatrons. Mm-hmm. And about a year ago I got one.
But the problem was that it had an unfortunate accident where the hip guard and the leg guard broke. So I finally got one ordered again, coming. So I'm looking forward to getting that. And then I kind of started something that I probably shouldn't have. Got my first NECA Predator figures over the last couple months. I've got the Jungle Hunter, which is awesome. I got the City Hunter. I got Broken Tusk from the comics and the novels, Deshande, as he's called. I've got the Fugitive Predator from the new film. So I've got 4. I've also got a 5th one kind of on the way, which is Wolf, the Predator Cleaner from AVPR. Which, yeah. So, and I've got about 4 or 5 more that I want to get.
This is precisely why I didn't start collecting Xenomorph NECA figures, because I would be down the same hole, but with the aliens.
Well, and then that is the problem. That is the problem. It's like, ooh, I like this Predator. Ooh, I like this Predator. Ooh, this one has a cool mask. So yeah, and oddly, for whatever reason, since I've stopped collecting Star Wars, because Disney is kind of... My issue is that Disney has made the ability to collect it less economical because the prices have gone up. And if you want a decent quality vehicle, where it would be like $30 back in the day, it's now like $60. And the vintage collection figures, where they would be like $8 or $9 back in the day, they're now like $12 to $14 retail here. Just saying. So I've been having a lot, like, really odd luck with vintage collection at Target when I go out for my hunts. I don't know what's going on. So I found a TVC Luke. I also found a Anakin Clone Wars and a Darth Maul. And I'm like, really? Wow. So I went ahead and brought them home. They looked sad on the shelf, so I was like, okay, well, you can join. You can join the Decepticons. They'll welcome you.
Well, while we're off topic and on the Star Wars front, David.
Yes. When I was a kid, something I always loved was, of course, I'm another Star Wars fanatic. I loved Qui-Gon Jinn as a kid. He was kind of one of those cool Jedi Masters from the prequel trilogy. And so I always kind of really liked the design of his lightsaber. It's kind of sleek, kind of interesting. It's different, definitely. And so Corabanth, who creates, it's a website, he's a fan, creates really cool, really accurate lightsaber replicas from all the movies, from the prequels, the original trilogy, and the new movies. And so he did a run of Qui-Gon Jinn lightsabers back in February, and I missed it literally by one day. Oh, no. I'm not even joking. I waited for that Friday for my paycheck to come in, and they sold out that Thursday. And so since March, I had been hunting for this lightsaber, basically on and off. All I could find online was like either plastic chintzy 3D prints or master replica lightsabers, which they sold for like $500 back then. These days they're like $1,000, if probably usually more. And so I finally found somebody selling one of their Corabanth Qui-Gon Jinn lightsabers on eBay for about $260-ish, plus some shipping, and I snapped it up right away. So that's in the pipeline to be delivered soon. Tomorrow, actually. I'm excited.
Nice.
We both checked our trackers multiple times within the last 24 hours.
Oh yes.
Where is it?
6 to be exact. I'm actually looking at my tracker right now.
You have amazing self-control.
I have none.
Any Jurassic, any Mattel stuff, David, that's coming in?
No, unfortunately not. I've not been able to find time to get to Target or Walmart or any of the other places that I normally check.
Yeah, rightio.
That's the thing with Walmart that I hate is that it has had the Dino Rivals stock perpetually for the last year. It's done it over with.
Mine doesn't even have a Jurassic section. I've stopped looking there. It's just disappointing. Every time I go in, I leave empty-handed. So I knocked it off my list. I check Target and Meijer now mostly.
I need to get up to Meijer at some point to check it out.
My Meijer usually gets a very good stock of pretty much everything. They've saved my butt a couple times.
Yeah,
Nice.
Meijer's pretty good.
Well, I'll bring us back to Jurassic. I got the, you mentioned before, Terry, I got the Amber Collection Dilophosaurus finally come in, which I love it. I love it a lot. And also got a couple of Lego sets, the baby Triceratops breakout, I think it is, or Wu's Lab, and the Egg Spinner, which was one of the older sets from Legends of Isla Nublar. So I got those two, and previously, building them at the moment.
I'm not allowed Legos because there was an incident with my pirate Legos as I was growing up, and they were, let's just say they were on the living room floor, and it was a nice little display, and then one night I heard crash, bang, boom, and ow! My foot! And I woke up, and there were no more Legos.
Oh, no.
And I was told that if I ever owned another Lego again, it would be a cold day in hell.
Well, I was banned from Legos for similar reasons. It was Star Wars Legos, and I had just completed the 2002 ATTE, one of the Star Wars tanks that came out with Attack of the Clones. Mm-hmm. And I picked it up to show it to my parents, and it crumbled in my hands, and I had a long profanity string of swears to say, and suffice to say, my Legos were taken away from me. They were stuck in the crawl space, and there they remain today.
Well, I actually did find them. My dad was cleaning out his. He's been, since he's kind of semi-retired now, he was cleaning out the garage and whatnot, and we came across this green tub with a bunch of my pirate Legos in it, and he's like, "Are these what I think these are?" He's like, "Look at these." I'm like, "Did you do this?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "I thought these were thrown out." "Well, get rid of them anyway. I don't need them."
Oh, no.
I was allowed to keep one Lego set, my custom-built Black Pearl pirate ship.
Nice.
But I still find Lego pieces around the house. We'll probably move out, and the next people will find Lego pieces around this house. It's a guarantee.
I do have the Lego T-Rex from Jurassic World, though. But I think it's like a knockoff one because it doesn't have Lego on it. I did get that. Yeah, I don't know, something like that.
Rico?
It doesn't even... Yeah, it just... I got it. I think it was the one that Rob pointed out one time in the Pedia chat. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll get that. Like AliExpress or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like the NECA figures you said before, the Lego train is steep and long. Especially if Double Trouble at the moment coming out, then we're going to have Dominion next year and tie-in Lego sets to that as well.
I actually really enjoyed Double Trouble.
I can't find it anywhere.
I thought it was hilarious.
Oh, good.
All the Lego stuff has been hilarious. Mm-hmm. I mean, my favorite part is, like, I forget which episode it was, but Owen and Claire are driving down the road, and then they go, "Well, it's not like the island's exploding," and then it flash forwards to Fallen Kingdom, and it shows Mount Sibo exploding behind him, and Owen going, "Run!" That's great. Like, oh, that's good. and I think the other one was, well, it's not like the first Jurassic Park, which failed horribly. Yeah, we don't talk about that.
Yeah, they got some great writers on there.
Yes, they do. I really do enjoy the Lego series more than I should, though, I think.
Simply put, InGen is seeking limited partners to defray some of our expansion costs. The prospectus you've been given by the board explicitly details our projected hardware and construction expenses, and as you can see by my two friends here with me tonight, software is already fully developed. One might say they've been up and running.
Guys, let's we got a couple of news stories here. Let's have a bit of a look and see what's been making news in September. David, you posted this up on the PDA discussion group in on Facebook. Jurassic 4.4 or 4-4, however you want to say it, on YouTube posted up a CNN interview from back in 1997 featuring our favourite worker village.
Yes, this one I follow them on Instagram, so I saw them post the video, and unfortunately with Instagram, links don't work, so I had to manually type in the link he posted on the in the caption of the picture he posted. And so I'm watching this thing, and it's a CNN interview directly after the ending of filming, and they're promoting the movie, of course. They run the trailer and all that, and they're interviewing Vanessa Lee Chester while they're doing a short walkthrough of the village from the front of the gate back to about the far end of the boarding house closest to the operations center. Unfortunately, we don't see in the inside of the operations center or anything like that, but you can see the road, and they mentioned that the tram tour will go through this the worker village, which I believe you mentioned before, haven't you?
The tram tour, yeah. I've been stalking people's home videos on YouTube for a couple of weeks now, just sort of laying out the foot or the path of the fate of the worker village post 97. We talked briefly about sliders and it being involved in that before getting redressed for Jurassic Park 3, but it's seemingly I can't find any videos in 97 of the tram tour actually going through it. They've always gone around it, but in this video you can clearly see they've laid down fresh asphalt for the main street and that. Mm-hmm. Again, we get fantastic look at the kiln house and boarding house exterior. They just don't turn the camera around to show us the gas station. Again. But
regardless, I mean, I remember seeing this. I'm like, oh man, this is gold. And I'm posting it around everywhere. And I'm like, yeah, this is the best we've ever seen since Sliders, honestly. Actually, it's the clearest we've seen of the worker village in the daylight since Sliders.
Yep.
You know, it would be nice if we actually did see in the gas station at some point, somehow.
Yeah, well, especially since it seems to be the first one to be pulled down when most of the fencing goes, it goes as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, but
yeah.
I've just pressed play. Damn it! I've been working on a bit of a write up here with some links and links to videos on YouTube and timestamps and that. I'll get that finished and get it posted up on the Facebook group, and we'll share it around, and we might come back and have a bit of a discussion about it at a later stage. But again, we've mentioned it before, just the fact that some of this stuff that we didn't know existed has started to come out, and it's great to see.
One thing I'd really wish they would actually come out with is the embryo canisters or the embryo storage units from the first film with all the dinosaur names on them.
Mm-hmm.
Just so that I could settle a little debate with myself. What are all the dinosaur names on them?
And what's even funnier, Terry, is you're not the only person that I've spoken to who has that obsession.
Oh.
I remember speaking with somebody on Reddit who seemed to have the same obsession about finding the version number or the numbers and everything on the
names on the street.
Yeah, because I remember posting up some clips or some screen caps on Reddit of the 35mm open mat copy, and they're like, does it show any more of the embryo storage units? And like, no, sadly it doesn't. Anything that's on the film, like, damn it, I've been searching for that for years. Yeah, like, yeah, I'm serious.
Yeah, I remember I think it was 94, they did the Science of Jurassic Park up at the Cleveland Museum of Natural History, and they actually had them. But the caveat was that you couldn't take any pictures of anything there since it was a exclusive exhibit.
Oh, no.
So it's like, and being young at the time, eight or nine, or I think I was about 10 at that time, actually, come to think of it, because it was a year later. I could have sworn that it's like they had like Thescalosaurus on there or something like that, and all this, and I can't really trust my memories because, you know, then you're a kid and whatnot, and it's so long ago too on top of it. But I remember emailing Don Lessam a while back about it, back on JPL, asking if he knew where they went or what happened to them, if he still had them. He said they were no one could find them anymore, basically. Mm-hmm. So I was really disappointed with the answer, but it was I did reach out to Don Lessam to ask, since he did the initial Jurassic Park exhibit and the Lost World exhibit both. So
maybe they'll turn up in an archive someplace like the Cryocan did.
Oh, I hope.
Yeah. Hope is all we have.
Rebellions are built on hope.
What's the matter?
He didn't make it.
RJ. I'm sorry.
Ready, I am.
Another bit of sad news too. Actually happened at the end of August, but Brian Franczak, artist extraordinaire to the original JP Kenner line, has unfortunately passed away. All the collector cards we got with our figures back in 93, 92, he was the artist behind them, and he'll be sadly missed.
Yeah, I remember he did a lot of cool Jurassic, or not just Jurassic Park art, but paleo art in general that I loved.
I think even some of it's in the souvenir magazine for Jurassic Park as well, I think.
It is, yeah, I think you're right.
So.
Yeah. I was going through some of those collector cards the other day. I haven't got the link here to the Facebook. I've only got the PDF one, but someone else, might have been on Twitter, actually posted a full printout of all, I think 14 cards that come with those original figures. Just some some early views on scenes that may have happened in the film, and just some damn good art as well.
Oh wow!
It's an interactive CD-ROM. Look, see, you just touch the right part of the screen and it talks about whatever you want.
Something else announced this month: Jurassic World Aftermath. We got a little bit of a hint of a VR game, Oculus game, at the start of Camp Cretaceous, and now it looks like we're getting one. VR game, I'm guessing it set 2 years after the fall of Jurassic World, so it's going to be on a dinosaur-infested nublar.
Of course.
And of course, we did see the kind of pseudo advertisement for it already in Camp Cretaceous.
Mm.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
That would be actually really surprising if they actually did do a lot, because I know they did it with Stargate, with SG-1, the Alliance, before that went under, and then Stargate Worlds before that went under. They did like a little sequence showing like little like in-game, animation and whatnot. So.
Yeah, the animation on this one sort of bit different as well. Not so much real world look at it, but my biggest problem is I don't want to have to go out and fork out for an Oculus just to play it. I eventually forked out to get the those goggles for that VR game for Jurassic World, and that turned out to be a bit of a disappointment. So I don't really want to rush.
I got the VR SE game, the Verse.
Yep.
I heard that's not really good.
No.
Oh, by the way, we do need to do an entry for it too.
I don't think there'll be too many people going to Jurassic-PD.com looking for information on the game, but
you would be surprised.
Yeah, I know.
You would.
Yep.
This game is terrible. Avoid it at all costs.
Now read a 300-word review of it.
Warning. Proceeding with this article will cause tears.
Come on. We're the same. We're dogs of war. We know that the military needs to reduce casualties. Some people think that robots are the future. Look, nature gave us the most effective killing machines 75 million years ago. And now we know they can take orders.
It's a good thing we got you on for this episode, Terry. You mentioned earlier during the interview your love of early Dino riders. Entertainment Earth has put out an exclusive order coming in February next year for new Dino riders. Or is it reissues? What are we looking at here?
It's basically like a little play set. It kind of reminds me of like one that you would get. I think what they're doing, they're testing the market.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like how they updated some of the dinosaurs for it as well, because it'll be really nice to have a T-Rex that isn't the tripod kangaroo stance.
Yeah, good point.
So,
yeah, I agree with Terry. I think that they're definitely testing the waters. They're trying to see. They're setting out with these little minifigures to see if it'd be worth putting out full-sized, full-paint figures.
Yeah.
And plus, I'm sure they're betting on some nostalgia to sell too.
I haven't pre-ordered it yet, but I will. Trust me.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time.
Not if, but when.
I do want to get Beast Wars since Transformers is doing Beast Wars figures again. They're going to be doing a T-Rex version of Megatron from the series, the first season appearance, not the cool Transmetal version that I wish I had as a body, but the the original T-Rex version. So I need to pre-order that as well too.
Yeah, they do look fantastic. Hasbro's doing some good stuff there for once.
They can it's really weird. It's like they can actually make a dinosaur figure. Who would have thought?
Yeah. It looks 100 times better than the Jurassic World one, and it's purple.
I mean, it's like the T-Rex has binocular vision, of course. I mean, it's like, it's like you look at the Stomp and Strike, it's kind of like an embarrassment.
I tossed mine in the trash. I had Stomp and Strike. The neck was shredded.
It's drugs are bad, okay? For meth, aftermath.
Oh, perfect timing. I'd hoped they'd hatch before I had to go to the boat. Henry, why didn't you tell me? I insist on being here when they're born.
Moving from Hasbro to back to Mattel, Collect Jurassic has posted up some photos. Mattel have revealed finally the last Raptor to join the Raptor squad, Echo. Although some people are having issues with the paint scheme.
I am having
those
issues.
It would seem that the paint scheme is based off of Echo in her Camp Cretaceous coloration. And I know a lot of fans are dissatisfied that there's not the teal stripes, but rather these kind of reddish, kind of blood red, brown, almost like a brown colored stripes that almost make her look like the male Velociraptor. And so I know a lot of people are really dissatisfied with that fact, but I'll admit it, I'm picking her up just because she looks like the male Velociraptor.
I'm buying two.
Yes, I am as well.
I'm buying two, and then I'm taking a teal Sharpie, and I'm going to go over the stripes meticulously as much as possible. Without shaking, because I'll probably get mad at some point and will mess up. And I will make it a proper Echo, I assure you.
I
promise.
They'll come up with a male Raptor, but this will be my male Raptor for the meantime.
Yep.
Definitely.
Like I said, 2.
Hey, where did you find this?
It locks under my seat.
Are they heavy?
Yeah.
Then they're expensive. Put them back.
All right, so that ends the news for September. One thing we did want to briefly discuss, David, we've been talking for a few episodes now about Chronicle Collectables. My still waiting for the goggles and being pushed forward 12 months again. There's been some disheartening news that has sort of been spreading around online, and unfortunately Chronicle hasn't seemingly been around to back it up or confirm it or even answer any questions. There's been some people or some fans that have seen their area, their offices being cleaned out. Pretty much looks like Chronicle's shut down.
Yeah, it looks like Chronicle Collectables, after a lawsuit from their former employee, Paul Francis, has lost most of their licenses and is now shutting down and being bankrupt now. I know a lot of fans who have gone through partially. They have gone through and asked for a refund from Chronicle, and partially has given them full refunds for anything paid through them. I know that some fans who have paid through third-party sites such as Sideshow have gotten promises of full refunds from those companies. Mm-hmm. I did not go through either. I went through PayPal via my bank, and so it seems like that unless my bank is able to get my money back from them, I'm kind of SOL on $300, not including the shipping I paid. And so I called my bank on Friday the 2nd, I think. Yeah, Friday the 2nd, and talked to my bank, and they said they're going to open an inquiry for me, help me get my money back, but until basically the time limit on that inquiry for Chronicle to get back from the bank ends, I'm out that $300.
And
$100 of it was through a credit through Chronicle Collectables, so I fully don't expect to get that money back if I don't hear from them, which I don't expect to.
Yeah, it doesn't help when they've, especially PayPal, the order's just been paused and not cancelled. It's sort of
Yeah, the first things that I first started kind of hearing these rumblings was I talked to a couple fans. Jay, we've had him on here a couple times. He tweeted that he had gotten a cancellation for his order, and apparently a lot of other fans have as well since then. And that was, I think, last Monday. That was the what was that? That was the 28th that they first started sending out hundreds of cancellations. Then I think that Tuesday they not shuttered the site, but they marked everything on their site as out of stock and removed any information from their team page. And I think it was either yesterday or Friday, one of the two, they apparently posted on their Facebook page a letter from their lawyer, and it's a lot of legalese, but some of the people on the replica prop forum and the statue forum translated to say, it basically says, don't go asking for refunds, which tells you right away, ask for your refund right now, because otherwise they're going to go to Chapter 11 and you won't get your money back. But yeah, this has been a very disheartening experience. I know that I had a Iron Studios Raptor that I ordered third party that I now suspect was ordered, that third party seller had purchased from Chronicle, which explains why I haven't received it yet. And I know for certain that the cryocan I ordered from them is a no-go at this point.
Yeah.
I'm not getting that.
Yeah.
You probably could have gotten an unofficial one for about that much. I see what.
The cryocan?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've seen them go for. It was like that for a while there. They were pumping them out. And then when Chronicle finally got the license and whatnot, it was like they started to silence it, I think, on eBay. So they were, for a while they were pretty common. Now they're not as much, obviously.
And that's probably because Chronicle having the license and making one. I know I don't want to call out names or anything, but there was one particular website and some others that were shaming people to say, hey, don't go and get this Hammond's cane, don't go and get this cryo can from third party, or people making themselves go and support and get the official ones.
The one thing is that I wanted to get Hammond's cane, but I wanted to make sure that it was load bearing, because I am getting older.
As we all are.
And it's kind of important that I have a cane when I get older. I don't know, it makes me look dignified. My luck, I'll probably find a Palpatine, Emperor Palpatine cane and go with that.
Yeah. I was about 6 weeks ago. I was talking to a friend online because I know he had the goggles pre-ordered as well, and that was about then when we seen it was going to be postponed for another year. And he'd been talking to one of his friends in the business and said that, or warned him that Chronicle's probably going to be done in the next 6 months, 3 to 6 months. And I don't know, just sent another payment stupidly at the time as well, so it wasn't the best there. I'm down about 400 at the moment into those goggles with shipping. So
yeah, some of the most that I've seen people down are out of right now are 1,500 to 2,000, which is really bad. I mean, I'm not as bad as even you, Brad, but yeah. Well, and Terry, I know you mentioned the fan-made cryo cans. I know that I mentioned Rilo on here yesterday, or I mean not yesterday, on here last week, that he says that I said that he does one of the best, if not the best, fan-made cryo can weapon or replicas that are available.